The parking lot camera caught it all. 11:47 p.m. A white woman in scrubs walking to her car. Then Officer Daniel Reese's cruiser rolling up behind her, lights off. What happened next would make national headlines, but not for the reason anyone expected. His hand grabbed her arm. She turned, confused. He shoved her against the brick wall so hard her head cracked the surface. His forearm pressed into her throat. She couldn't breathe, couldn't scream. Phones came out. Someone yelled. He didn't stop, until a voice cut through the chaos like a blade. Step back, right now. Reese looked up and froze, because the woman choking under his arm wasn't just another tired nurse. She was someone the military had spent years training to survive impossible situations. And the people now surrounding him? They weren't random bystanders anymore. They were witnesses to the beginning of the end. If you want to see how far justice can really go when the right person refuses to stay silent, stay with me until the very end. Like this video, drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels across the world. Lily Brooks had been on her feet for 14 hours straight, the kind of shift that left your spine aching and your mind buzzing with leftover adrenaline. Redwood Falls General wasn't a war zone, but some nights it came close. Domestic violence cases, overdoses, a stabbing victim who coded twice before she and Dr. Patel brought him back. She'd held pressure on wounds while family members screamed in the hallway. She'd run IVs, pushed meds, documented everything with hands that wouldn't stop shaking until the last patient was stable. Now it was almost midnight. The ER had finally quieted. Lily clocked out, pulled her hair loose from the bun that had given her a headache since hour 6, and walked through the automatic doors into the cool October air. The employee parking lot sat behind the hospital, separated from the main entrance by a chain-link fence and a row of dying hedges. Overhead lights flickered. Half of them had been out for months. Lily made a mental note to mention it again at the next safety meeting. Not that anyone ever listened. Her Toyota was parked in the back corner. She dug her keys from her scrub pocket and kept her head down. Fatigue made everything feel distant, like she was watching herself move through water. She didn't notice the patrol car until it was right behind her. No lights, no siren. Just the low growl of an engine idling too close. Lily stopped, turned. Officer Daniel Reese stepped out. Tall, broad-shouldered, the kind of build that filled a uniform in a way that made people nervous. He adjusted his belt, hand resting near his weapon, and walked toward her with the slow confidence of someone who'd never been told no. "Evening," he said. Lily nodded. "Officer." "Little late to be out here alone." She forced a polite smile. "Just got off shift." "Yeah?" He looked her up and down. "You work here?" She gestured at her scrubs. "ER nurse." "Huh." He took another step closer. "Busy night?" "Every night's busy." Something in his expression shifted. A flicker of irritation, maybe, like he'd expected a different answer. "You got ID?" Lily blinked. "ID? Yeah, ID? Let me see it." She hesitated. "I'm just heading to my car." "I didn't ask where you're going. I asked for ID." Her pulse kicked up. She reached slowly into her pocket and pulled out her hospital badge. He took it, held it up to the dim light, squinted at her photo like he was searching for something incriminating. "Lily Brooks," he read aloud. "That you?" "Yes." "You live around here?" "I don't see how that's relevant." Wrong answer. His jaw tightened. He stepped into her space, close enough that she could smell coffee and aftershave. "I asked you a question, and I'm asking why it matters." Her voice stayed calm, but her hands had started trembling. Not from fear, from exhaustion mixed with the low-level alarm her body was sending. Something was wrong here. She just didn't know what yet. "You being smart with me?" "No, I'm trying to go home." He tossed her badge onto the asphalt. It skittered under her car. "Pick it up." She stared at him. "I said pick it up." Lily crouched slowly, fingers brushing the pavement, eyes never leaving him. When she stood, badge in hand, he was even closer. "You think you're special?" His voice dropped, quiet, dangerous. "You think because you work in a hospital, you get to mouth off? I wasn't. His hand shot out and grabbed her arm. Hard. She gasped, tried to pull back, but his grip was iron. Let go. He didn't. Let go of me. Instead, he yanked her forward and slammed her against the brick wall. Her head cracked against the surface. Pain exploded behind her eyes. Before she could react, his forearm pressed into her throat. Air cut off. She clawed at his arm, tried to push back, but he was twice her size and using his full weight. She couldn't breathe, couldn't scream. Somewhere far away, voices started shouting, footsteps running. A man yelling, "Hey, what are you doing?" Reese didn't move. Lily's vision started to blur. Her lungs burned. She'd been trained for this, how to break holds, how to fight back. But her body was shutting down faster than her brain could respond. The edges of the world went soft and gray. Then a voice cut through everything. "Step back. Right now." Reese turned his head. A man stood 10 feet away. Mid-40s, buzz cut, civilian clothes, but the posture screamed military. Behind him, 3 others, all watching, all recording. "This is police business," Reese said. "This is assault," the man replied. "And if you don't let her breathe in the next 5 seconds, you're going to have a very different problem." Reese hesitated. Lily felt his arm shift just slightly, enough for her to gulp half a breath. "You threatening an officer?" "I'm stating facts. Let her go." The standoff held. Lily's heart hammered so loud she thought it might crack her ribs. Then, slowly, Reese pulled back. She collapsed against the wall, gasping, one hand pressed to her throat. The man with the buzz cut stepped forward. "You okay?" She nodded, couldn't speak yet. Reese straightened his uniform, glaring at all of them. She was resisting. "Resisting what?" Buzzcut asked. "Walking to her car?" She refused to comply. "With what order?" Reese didn't answer. He just stared at Lily with cold, flat eyes. "You're making a mistake." Then he turned and walked back to his cruiser, drove off. No lights. No rush. Like nothing had happened. Lily slid down the wall and sat on the pavement, shaking so hard her teeth chattered. Buzzcut knelt beside her. "I'm Marcus. Former Army. That was recorded by 4 people. You need to file a report." She looked up at him, eyes burning. "He's a cop." "I know. They won't believe me." Marcus's expression hardened. "They will. Trust me." The Redwood Falls Police Department smelled like burnt coffee and old paperwork. Lily sat in a plastic chair across from Sergeant Howard, a man whose face looked like it had forgotten how to smile sometime in the 90s. Marcus sat beside her. He hadn't left her side since the parking lot. Howard leaned back, arms crossed. "So let me get this straight. You're claiming Officer Reese assaulted you." "I'm not claiming. He did." Huh?" Howard glanced at the report in front of him. "Says here you were argumentative, refused to show ID. I showed him my hospital badge. That's not a legal form of identification." Lily stared at him. "He asked if I worked there. I showed him proof. Then he threw it on the ground and told me to pick it up." "And you did?" "Yes." "So you complied." Her throat tightened. "After he escalated." Howard shrugged. "Doesn't sound like escalation to me. Sounds like a lawful request." Marcus leaned forward. "Lawful requests don't end with someone's head slammed into a wall." Howard's eyes slid to him. "And you are?" "A witness." "Right. Well, witnesses don't always see the full picture." 4 of us recorded it," Marcus said. "You want the full picture? I'll send you the video." Howard's jaw worked. He didn't like that. Lily could see it in the way his shoulders tensed, the way his fingers drummed the desk. "I'll review the footage, but let me be clear. Officer Reese has been with this department for 8 years. Exemplary record. If you're looking for a payout, I'm looking for accountability," Lily said quietly. Howard snorted. "Good luck with that." Wow, she thought it would end there. A report filed, an investigation that would go nowhere. She'd seen it before, people reporting abuse of power, only to watch the system close ranks and protect its own. But the video didn't disappear. Marcus posted it online. Redacted Lily's name, blurred her face, but left everything else intact. The grab, the shove, the chokehold. Reese's face, clear as day. Within 48 hours, it had 500,000 views. Local news picked it up, then state news, then national. Nurse assaulted by officer in hospital parking lot. Veteran witnesses intervene in alleged police brutality case. Redwood Falls PD under fire. After viral video. Lily stopped reading after the first dozen headlines. She couldn't handle it. The comments were worse. Half the internet called her a hero. The other half called her a liar. Some said she must have done something to provoke him. Others dug into her past, found her military service record, and started building conspiracy theories. She deleted her social media, stopped answering her phone, went to work and kept her head down. But the hospital wasn't safe anymore either. 2 days after the video went viral, she walked into the ER and found Lisa Martinez, one of the senior nurses, whispering with a group near the supply closet. They went quiet when they saw her. Lily kept walking. "Must be nice," Lisa muttered. Lily stopped, turned. "Excuse me?" Lisa crossed her arms. "Getting famous for playing victim." Heat flooded Lily's chest. "I didn't play anything." "Right, you just happened to have a bunch of army buddies with cameras ready. They were strangers." "Sure they were." Another nurse, Jenna, chimed in. "I heard you're suing the department." "I'm not suing anyone." "Yet," Lisa said. "Give it time. This is about money, right? Get assaulted, get paid?" Lily's hands clenched into fists. She wanted to scream, wanted to grab Lisa by the shoulders and shake her until she understood what it felt like to have someone's arm crushing your windpipe. But she didn't. She just turned and walked away. Dr. Patel found her in the break room an hour later, staring at a cold cup of coffee. "You okay?" he asked. She didn't look up. "Do I look okay?" He sat down across from her. "For what it's worth, I believe you." "That doesn't change anything." "Maybe not, but you're not alone in this." She finally met his eyes. "It feels like I am." The lawsuit came 3 days later. Officer Daniel Reese was suing Lily Brooks for defamation, emotional distress, and damage to his reputation. The filing claimed she had knowingly fabricated the assault, conspired with Marcus and the other witnesses to stage the video, and used her position as a healthcare worker to manipulate public sympathy. Lily read the document twice, unable to process it. Then she called Marcus. "They're suing me," she said, voice shaking. "I know. I got served too. What do we do?" "We fight back." "With what?" "I can't afford a lawyer." "You won't need to, Marcus said. "I made some calls. People are paying attention now. The kind of people who don't let this slide." "What people?" He didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was different, careful. "Lily, I need to ask you something. Your military record, it says you were a combat medic. Deployed twice, Iraq and Afghanistan." Her stomach dropped. "How do you know that?" "Because I was Army too. And when I saw you in that parking lot, the way you held yourself, even when you were choking, I recognized it. You've been in worse situations than that, haven't you?" She closed her eyes. "Yeah." "Then you know how to fight. This isn't a war zone." "Isn't it?" Marcus asked quietly. "Because from where I'm standing, you're under attack, and the people coming after you, they're counting on you to give up." Lily leaned against the wall, phone pressed to her ear, and felt something shift inside her. A familiar coldness. The same calm that used to settle over her when mortar rounds hit the base, and she had to run toward the explosion instead of away from it. "What do I do?" she asked. "You let the right people know who you really are," Marcus said, "and then you watch them realize they picked the wrong fight." The first call came from a law firm in the state capital, pro bono representation, Military Veterans Advocacy Group. They wanted to take her case. The second call came from a journalist, national outlet, investigative piece on police misconduct. They wanted her story. The third call came from someone Lily didn't expect. "Ms. Brooks, this is Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Vance, U.S. Army Judge Advocate General's Corps. I'm calling regarding the incident involving Officer Daniel Reese." Lily sat down slowly. "How did you get this number?" We've been monitoring the situation. When we saw your service record, we flagged it. Are you aware that assaulting a veteran can trigger federal review under certain circumstances? No. Well, it can, especially when that veteran was injured in the line of duty and the assault occurred in connection with her civilian work. We'd like to open a formal inquiry. Lily's heart pounded. Into Reese? Into the department. We've done some preliminary digging. Officer Reese has 14 complaints filed against him over the past 8 years. Excessive force, unlawful detention, harassment. Not one resulted in disciplinary action. How is that possible? That's what we're going to find out. The Redwood Falls Police Department issued a statement 2 days later. Standard PR language. We take all allegations seriously. Officer Reese is on administrative leave pending investigation. We remain committed to transparency and accountability. But behind the scenes, things were moving fast. Marcus told her the FBI had gotten involved, not just because of her case, because of a pattern. Reese wasn't the only officer with a history of violence. There were others, a whole network of them, covering for each other, falsifying reports, intimidating witnesses. They've been doing this for years, Marcus said over coffee, and they got away with it because no one fought back hard enough. Until now, Lily said quietly. He nodded. Until now. She stirred her coffee, watching the cream swirl into dark spirals. I didn't want this. I just wanted to go home. I know. And now my face is all over the internet. People hate me. People I work with think I'm lying. They'll change their minds. Will they? Marcus leaned forward. Lily, you survived 2 deployments. You kept soldiers alive under fire. You've seen things most people can't even imagine. This? He gestured around them. This is just another fight, and you're going to win. She looked at him, this stranger who'd stepped in when no one else would, and felt something loosen in her chest. Not hope, exactly, but something close. Okay, she said. Let's win. The preliminary hearing was set for 3 weeks later. Lily spent those weeks preparing, meeting with lawyers, reviewing footage, going over every detail of that night until she could recite it in her sleep. The hospital put her on paid leave. For your safety, they said. But Lily knew the truth. They didn't want the controversy. Didn't want protesters showing up. Didn't want the optics of a nurse who'd become a national symbol working their ER. She didn't fight it. She was too tired, but she wasn't alone. Dr. Patel checked in daily. Marcus became a constant presence, connecting her with veterans groups, advocacy organizations, people who'd been through similar situations. Her lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Denise Carr, worked around the clock building the case. And then, the night before the hearing, Lily got a message. Unknown number. No caller ID. Drop the case or you'll regret it. She stared at the screen, pulse hammering, took a screenshot, sent it to Denise. The reply came instantly. File a police report, now. Lily almost laughed. File a police report with the same department that was protecting Reese, but she did it anyway. Went to the station, sat across from a different sergeant, a woman this time, younger, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense expression. I'll flag this, the sergeant said. But I have to tell you, threats like this are hard to trace. I know. The sergeant hesitated, then leaned forward. Off the record, be careful. Reese has friends, and some of them don't care about rules. Lily met her eyes. Neither do I. The hearing took place in a gray courthouse downtown. Lily wore a simple black dress, her hair pulled back, no makeup. Denise had coached her. Look tired. Look honest. Don't try to be strong. Let them see what he did to you. The courtroom was packed. Press, activists, veterans in uniform, and somewhere in the back, Daniel Reese, flanked by his lawyers. Lily didn't look at him. The prosecutor played the video first. 4 angles, crystal clear. Reese grabbing her, shoving her, choking her. The audio picked up her gasping, someone yelling, Marcus's voice cutting through. When it ended, the room was silent. Then the defense stood. Ms. Brooks, the lawyer said, you claim Officer Reese assaulted you without provocation. Is that correct? Yes. and yet you refuse to provide identification. I showed him my hospital badge, which is not a legal form of ID. He didn't ask for legal ID. He asked if I worked there. The lawyer smiled, thin, condescending. Did you, at any point, raise your voice? No. Did you use profanity? No. Did you make any sudden movements? I tried to pull away when he grabbed me. Ah, so you resisted. Denise shot to her feet. Objection. Trying to escape an unlawful assault is not resistance. Sustained, the judge said. The defense lawyer didn't miss a beat. Ms. Brooks, you're a combat veteran, trained in hand-to-hand combat. Isn't it true that you could have fought back? Lily's hands tightened in her lap. Yes. But you didn't. No. Why not? She looked at him, tired, sad, angry. Because I thought if I fought back, he'd kill me. The courtroom went dead silent. The lawyer opened his mouth, closed it, sat down. Denise stood. The defense wants you to believe that a woman walking to her car after a 14-hour shift somehow provoked a trained officer into slamming her head into a wall. They want you to believe that showing a hospital badge is grounds for being choked. They want you to believe that this... She gestured at the frozen image on the screen. Lily's face twisted in pain, Reese's arm across her throat, is justified. She paused. It's not. The verdict came back faster than anyone expected. Guilty. All charges. Assault. Excessive force. Abuse of authority. Reese sat stone-faced as the judge read the sentence. 10 years. Stripped of his badge, permanent record. Lily didn't feel relief. She felt numb. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed, cameras flashing, questions shouted. Marcus and Denise flanked her, pushing through the crowd. Ms. Brooks, how do you feel? Do you think justice was served? What do you want people to know? She stopped, turned, looked directly into the nearest camera. I want people to know that this shouldn't have happened, that I'm not special. I'm just someone who refused to stay quiet. And if you're out there and someone did this to you, don't stay quiet either. Then she walked away into the cold evening air and finally let herself breathe. But it wasn't over. 2 days later, federal agents arrested 3 more officers, all connected to Reese, all with histories of violence. The investigation had cracked open something bigger than anyone realized, a culture of abuse covered up for years. And then the threats started. Not just messages anymore. A brick through her apartment window, her car keyed. Someone following her home from the grocery store. Denise filed for protective orders. The FBI assigned a security detail. But Lily could feel the walls closing in. She was sitting in her apartment, staring at the boarded-up window when her phone rang. Lieutenant Colonel Vance. Ms. Brooks, we have a problem. Lily's stomach dropped. What kind of problem? There's an officer, former partner of Reese's, who's been making concerning statements. We have reason to believe he may try to retaliate. Retaliate how? Vance hesitated. We're taking it seriously. I need you to stay somewhere safe until we locate him. Where am I supposed to go? We have a safe house. No. Lily stood, pacing. I'm not hiding. I didn't do anything wrong. I know, but I spent years in war zones. I'm not running from a sound outside. Footsteps on gravel. Lily froze. Ms. Brooks? She moved to the window, peeked through the blinds. A man stood in the parking lot, staring up at her apartment. Tall. Hoodie pulled low, hands in his pockets. He's here, she whispered. Who's there? Lily? The man started walking toward her building. Lily backed away from the window, heart slamming against her ribs. Her training kicked in. Exits, weapons, phone. She grabbed a kitchen knife, locked the door, dialed 911 with shaking hands. The operator answered. 911, what's your emergency? Someone's outside my apartment. I think he's going to... The door handle rattled, then stopped. Silence. Lily held her breath, knife raised, every muscle coiled. Footsteps retreated. She ran to the window. The man was gone. But on her doorstep, scratched into the paint, were 3 words. You're next, bitch. The FBI arrived within 20 minutes. 2 agents in dark suits, a local patrol car, and a forensics team that photographed the scratched message like it was evidence in a murder trial. Lily sat on her couch, wrapped in a blanket she didn't remember grabbing, watching strangers dust her doorframe for prints she knew they wouldn't find. The lead agent was a woman named Torres, 50s, gray streaking through black hair, eyes that had seen too much to be shocked by anything. She sat across from Lily with a notepad and a pen that clicked rhythmically. "Walk me through it again." Lily's throat felt raw. "I already told the other agent." "Tell me." So she did. The phone call with Vance, the man in the parking lot, the rattling door handle, the silence that felt worse than breaking glass. Torres wrote it all down without changing expression. When Lily finished, the agent looked up. "You get a good look at his face? No? Hoodie, pulled low. Height, build. Tall, maybe 6 feet, average build. Distinguishing features?" Lily shook her head. It was dark. Torres clicked her pen, clicked it again. "Miss Brooks, I'm going to be straight with you. Whoever did this knows what they're doing. No prints, no camera footage from the lot. He didn't touch the door, just rattled the handle to scare you. It worked. I'm sure it did." Torres leaned forward. "But here's the thing. Intimidation only works if you give them what they want. And what they want is for you to drop this. Disappear. Stop being a problem." Lily met her eyes. "I'm not dropping anything. I know, that's why we're moving you." "I already said, you're not hiding, I get it. But you're also not staying in an apartment with a broken window and a death threat carved into your door." Torres stood. "We have a secure location. You'll be there until we find whoever's targeting you." "And if you don't find them?" Torres didn't answer right away. When she did, her voice was quieter. "Then we keep you safe until they make a mistake." Lily packed a bag, clothes, toiletries, her service medals still in the box she'd shoved into the back of her closet years ago. She didn't know why she grabbed them. Maybe because they were the only proof she had that she'd survived worse than this. The safe house was a bland 2-bedroom in a subdivision 40 minutes outside Redwood Falls. Beige walls, beige carpet, furniture that looked like it came from a discount catalog. An agent named Kim stayed with her, young, quiet. Spent most of his time on his laptop near the window, watching the street. Lily tried to sleep, couldn't. Every sound made her jolt awake. Footsteps upstairs, a car door slamming, the hum of the refrigerator that sounded too much like someone breathing. On the 3rd night, Marcus called. "You okay?" "Define okay." Still breathing, still fighting. Lily almost laughed. "Barely. That's more than enough." She heard noise in the background, voices, traffic. "Listen, I've been talking to some people. Veterans advocacy groups, legal experts. They want to help." "Help how?" "Publicity, pressure, making sure this doesn't get swept under the rug." He paused. "There's going to be a rally, downtown Redwood Falls, next Saturday. They want you there." Her stomach twisted. "I can't." "Why not?" "Because I'm in a safe house, Marcus. Because someone wants me dead. Which is exactly why you should show up." His voice hardened. "You think they'll stop if you hide? They're counting on you being scared." "I am scared." "Good. Use it." She closed her eyes, pressed the phone against her ear so hard it hurt. "What if something happens?" "Then we deal with it. But if you don't show, they win. And I know you, Lily. You don't let people win." After he hung up, she sat in the dark for a long time. Kim glanced over from his laptop but didn't say anything. Smart kid. Finally, Lily stood and walked to the window, looked out at the quiet street. The identical houses. The streetlights casting pale orange circles on the pavement. Somewhere out there, someone wanted her gone. But she'd faced worse. Mortars, snipers, bleeding soldiers who begged her not to let them die. She'd held their hands and lied through her teeth, promising they'd be fine, knowing some of them wouldn't make it past the evac chopper. This was different, but not that different. She pulled out her phone and texted Marcus. "I'll be there." The response came immediately. "Good. Bring that fire." The rally was scheduled for noon. Lily spent the morning throwing up from nerves. Kim drove her into the city in an unmarked sedan, 2 additional agents following in a second car. They parked 3 blocks away and walked the rest. Downtown Redwood Falls had seen better days. Half the storefronts were empty. Graffiti covered the alley walls. But today the main square was packed. Hundreds of people. Maybe 1,000. Signs, banners, veterans in uniform, civilians in street clothes, families with kids on their shoulders. Justice for Lily. End police brutality. Veterans deserve better. Lily stopped at the edge of the crowd, overwhelmed. She'd expected a handful of people. Not this. Marcus appeared beside her. Told you. This is insane. This is support. He nodded toward the stage set up near the fountain. You're speaking in 10 minutes. Her heart dropped. What? You're the reason we're here, Lily. People need to hear from you. I didn't agree to, but... I know, but you're doing it anyway. He gripped her shoulder. You've got this. She wanted to argue, wanted to run. But then she saw them. The faces in the crowd. Young, old, black, white, Latino, Asian. People who'd driven hours to be here. People holding signs with her name on them. People who believed her. Denise met her backstage, handed her a bottle of water and a folded piece of paper. Talking points. You don't have to use them, but if you freeze, they're there. Lily unfolded it. Her hands shook so badly the paper rattled. Breathe, Denise said. You've done harder things than this. Like what? Like surviving. The introduction was brief. A local activist. A few sentences about the case. Then her name, and the crowd erupted. Lily walked onto the stage feeling like she might vomit. The microphone was too tall. She adjusted it, looked out at the sea of faces, the cameras, the press. The agents scattered through the crowd, watching. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Someone in the front row shouted, "We believe you!" Others joined in. A chant. Low at first, then building. "We believe you. We believe you." Lily gripped the microphone stand, felt the metal cold against her palms. And then, somehow, she found her voice. I didn't want to be here. Her words echoed across the square. I didn't want any of this. I just wanted to go home after a long shift. That's it. That's all I wanted. The crowd went quiet. But Officer Daniel Reese didn't care what I wanted. He saw a woman alone in a parking lot and decided she didn't matter. He grabbed me, choked me, and when people started recording, he still didn't stop. Her voice cracked. She forced herself to keep going. I filed a report. And you know what happened? I got threatened, harassed. My coworkers turned on me. Someone sued me for defamation. Someone else carved a death threat into my door. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. But I'm still here because I spent years in war zones keeping people alive. I've seen the worst of humanity, and I've also seen the best. I've seen strangers run toward danger to help someone they've never met. I've seen people fight for what's right, even when it costs them everything. She looked out at the signs, the faces, the belief. So if you're asking me to give up, to stay quiet, to let them win. She shook her head. I can't do that, because if I do, the next person won't fight back either. And the person after that, and the person after that, and nothing changes. The crowd roared. Lily stepped back from the microphone, legs trembling, and Marcus caught her before she collapsed. You did good, he said. She couldn't respond, couldn't breathe, just held on to him while the world spun. Later, when the rally ended and the crowd dispersed, Torres pulled her aside. We have a lead. Lily's pulse spiked. On who? Name's Officer Grant Holloway, former partner of Reese's. He's been off the grid since the verdict. No phone activity, no credit card transactions. But we got a tip he's been staying with a friend in the North End. Are you picking him up? Torres's expression darkened. We're trying, but he's not making it easy. What does that mean? It means he knows we're looking, and he's got help. That night, back at the safe house, Lily couldn't sleep again. She kept checking her phone, refreshing the news. The rally had made headlines. Local, national, international. Her face was everywhere. Kim made coffee around 2 a.m. and brought her a cup without asking. You should rest. Can't. Yeah, I get that. He sat down across from her. For what it's worth, what you did today, that took guts. Or stupidity. Same thing sometimes. He smiled, tired but genuine. My sister's a nurse, works in Detroit. She watched the rally live stream, called me crying. Lily looked up. Why? Because she's been assaulted too, by a patient's family member. Hospital did nothing, told her to let it go. He shook his head. She said watching you made her feel less alone. Lily's throat tightened. I'm sorry that happened to her. Me too. But maybe now she'll file a report. Maybe she'll fight back. He stood. That's because of you. After he left, Lily sat with that thought. The weight of it. The responsibility. She hadn't asked to be a symbol. Hadn't asked for any of this. But here she was anyway. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Hello? Breathing, heavy, deliberate. Who is this? A voice, male, low. You should have stayed quiet. Her blood went cold. Holloway? A laugh, cruel. Cute speech today, real inspiring, but you have no idea what you've started. The FBI is looking for you. Let them look. Background noise, traffic. He was outside, moving. You think Reese was the problem? He's just one guy. There are dozens of us, and we protect our own. You're threatening a federal witness. I'm making a promise. You took down a good cop, ruined lives, families. You think there won't be consequences? Lily's hand tightened on the phone. Daniel Reese assaulted me. He's in prison because he broke the law. He's in prison because you wouldn't shut your mouth. And I'm not shutting it now. Silence. Then quieter, more dangerous. We'll see. The line went dead. Lily sat frozen, heart slamming against her ribs. Then she grabbed Kim's laptop and pulled up the call log, traced the number. Burner phone. Of course. But the background noise. She'd heard something. A train horn, specific, high-pitched, the kind that only ran on the Eastern Freight Line. She grabbed her jacket. Kim appeared in the doorway. Where are you going? He just called me. Who? Holloway. I heard a train, Eastern Freight Line. He's near the rail yard. Kim pulled his weapon. We're not going anywhere. I'm calling Torres. By the time she gets there, he'll be gone. That's not your problem. Lily looked at him. Really looked. Saw the fear, the protocol, the training that said keep the witness safe at all costs. I'm not asking permission. She walked past him. He grabbed her arm. Lily, let go. You're not a cop. You're not military anymore. You're a nurse who what? Who should stay quiet? Who should hide? She pulled free. I've been running for weeks. I'm done. This is a bad idea. Probably. She opened the door. You coming or not? Kim hesitated, cursed under his breath, then holstered his weapon and followed. They took his car, drove east through empty streets. The rail yard sat on the edge of the industrial district, a sprawling maze of rusted tracks and abandoned boxcars. Graffiti covered everything. Broken glass glittered in the headlights. Kim parked a block away. Called Torres. Put her on speaker. Do not engage, Torres said immediately. Holloway is armed and dangerous. Wait for backup. How long? 15 minutes. Kim looked at Lily. She was already getting out of the car. Lily, wait. She didn't, couldn't. Something pulled her forward, the same instinct that had kept her alive in Kandahar when mortars fell, and she had to choose between cover and the soldier bleeding out 10 feet away. She always chose the soldier. The rail yard was a graveyard. Shadows everywhere, metal creaking in the wind. Kim moved beside her, weapon drawn, scanning. Then she saw him, 50 yards ahead, standing between two boxcars, tall, hoodie, hands in his pockets, Grant Holloway. He didn't run, just watched her approach. Kim raised his weapon. Hands where I can see them. Holloway pulled his hands out slowly, empty. Relax, kid. I'm not armed. On your knees, now. Or what? You'll shoot an unarmed man? Holloway smiled, cold, dead-eyed. That'll look great on the news. Lily stepped forward. It's over. They know everything. The cover-ups, the complaints, the whole system you built. System? Holloway laughed. You think this was a system? This was survival. Cops looking out for cops, because no one else will. You call choking a woman survival? I call it reality. You disrespected Reese. He corrected you. End of story. Her hands clenched into fists. He's in prison. For now. Kim moved closer, weapon trained. Hands behind your head. Holloway obeyed, slowly, too slowly, like he was waiting for something. And then Lily heard it. Footsteps. Behind them. She spun. 2 more men, both in hoodies, both moving fast. Kim turned, weapons swinging between targets. FBI, don't move! The men stopped, but Holloway was already running. Kim fired a warning shot. The sound cracked through the rail yard like thunder. One of the men dropped. The other bolted. Lily ran after Holloway. Pure instinct. No plan. Just muscle memory from 100 combat drills. He was fast, but she was faster. She tackled him between 2 freight cars, both of them hitting gravel hard. He twisted, threw an elbow, caught her in the ribs. Pain exploded. She gasped, rolled, came up swinging. Her fist connected with his jaw. His head snapped back. Then his hand closed around her throat. The world tilted. She clawed at his fingers, couldn't breathe, couldn't scream. His face hovered above hers, twisted with rage. You should have stayed down. Darkness crept in at the edges. Her lungs screamed. She was going to die here. In a rail yard, alone. Just like the soldiers she couldn't save. Then a gunshot. Holloway jerked. His grip loosened. He looked down at his shoulder, blood spreading across his hoodie, and collapsed sideways. Kim stood 10 feet away, weapon raised, hands shaking. Lily rolled onto her side, gasping, choking, alive. Sirens wailed in the distance, Torres's backup. Too late, but there. Kim knelt beside her. You okay? She nodded, couldn't speak yet. He looked at Holloway, bleeding and unconscious. That was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Lily coughed, tasted blood. Did we get him? Yeah, we got him. But as the sirens grew louder and red and blue lights flooded the rail yard, Lily saw something that made her stomach drop. Holloway's phone. Lying in the gravel, screen lit up. A text message visible. It's done. She won't make it to trial. And below it, a response. Good. Finish the job. The sender's name was just an initial. M. Someone else was coming. Torres took the phone from Lily's trembling hands and stared at the screen like it might explode. The message glowed in the darkness. It's done. She won't make it to trial. And that response, good. Finish the job. Just the letter M. Bag this. Torres snapped at a forensics tech. I want every text, every call, every contact scraped from this device within the hour. Paramedics loaded Holloway onto a stretcher. He was conscious now, groaning, blood soaking through the pressure bandage on his shoulder. Kim stood nearby, still holding his weapon, knuckles white. He'd shot a man tonight. The paperwork alone would take weeks. The internal review would take longer. Lily sat on the bumper of an ambulance, an oxygen mask pressed to her face. Her throat felt like someone had taken sandpaper to it. A medic shined a penlight in her eyes, asked her questions she barely heard. Name, date, where are you? She answered on autopilot. Torres crouched in front of her. We need to talk. Lily pulled the mask down. Who's M? That's what we're going to find out. Torres glanced at the forensics team swarming Holloway's phone. But right now, you need medical attention. Real attention. Hospital. I'm fine. You're not. You were strangled twice in 3 weeks. You need scans, x-rays, documentation? Torres's voice softened slightly. And we need evidence. If this goes to trial, when it goes to trial. When? We need your injuries documented by someone who isn't standing in a rail yard at 3 a.m. Lily nodded. Let the medic guide her into the ambulance. Kim climbed in after her. You don't have to, she started. Yeah, I do. He sat across from her, elbows on his knees, head down. I shot someone tonight. You saved my life. Maybe, but I still pulled the trigger. He looked up, eyes red-rimmed, young, too young for this. Does it get easier? Lily thought about Kandahar, About the 19-year-old private who'd bled out in her arms while she screamed for evac that came 10 minutes too late. About the nightmares that still woke her up sometimes, gasping and clawing at sheets. No, she said quietly. It doesn't. They rode in silence after that. Redwood Falls General looked different in the early morning hours. Quieter. The ER waiting room held only a handful of people. A kid with a broken arm. An elderly man coughing into a handkerchief. A woman clutching her stomach, rocking slightly. Lily walked through the automatic doors and felt a dozen pairs of eyes turned toward her. Recognition flickered across faces. Some people looked away. Others stared. The triage nurse was someone Lily didn't recognize. Mid-30s, tired eyes. She glanced at Lily's throat, the bruises already darkening, and her expression hardened. Name? Lily Brooks? The nurse's hand paused over the keyboard. The Lily Brooks? Just a patient tonight. The nurse nodded slowly, typed. What happened? Assault, strangulation, need documentation for a federal case. Jesus. The nurse stood. Follow me. They bypassed the waiting room, straight into a private exam room. The nurse took vitals. Blood pressure elevated, pulse racing, oxygen saturation normal. She photographed the bruises from 6 different angles, clinical and detached, then left to find a doctor. Lily sat on the exam table, paper crinkling beneath her. The room smelled like antiseptic and fear. She'd worked in rooms like this, patched people up, held their hands while they cried or screamed or went silent in that terrible way that meant they were shutting down. Now she was the patient. The door opened. Dr. Patel walked in, still in his white coat, stethoscope around his neck. He stopped when he saw her. Lily. Hey. He crossed the room in 3 steps, looked at her throat. His jaw tightened. Who did this? Former cop, friend of Reese's. Where is he now? Hospital, under guard. Kim shot him. Patel closed his eyes briefly, opened them. I need to examine you. She nodded. He was gentle, professional. Checked her airway, her range of motion, palpated her throat for structural damage. She winced when he touched a particularly tender spot. Sorry, it's fine. It's not. He stepped back, pulled off his gloves. You have significant soft tissue trauma. Possible damage to the larynx. I want a CT scan to rule out fractures. I don't have fractures. Let me be the doctor, okay? His voice cracked slightly. Just this once, let someone take care of you. She looked at him, really looked, saw the exhaustion, the worry, the anger he was trying to keep professional. Okay, she said. The CT took 20 minutes. They found no fractures, just severe bruising and swelling. The radiologist recommended ice, rest, and anti-inflammatories. No talking for 48 hours. Lily almost laughed at that last part. Patel walked her out. Kim was waiting in the hallway, flanked by 2 other agents. Torres stood near the nurse's station, phone pressed to her ear, face grim. When she hung up, she motioned Lily over. We cracked Holloway's phone. Lily's pulse spiked. And? M is Captain Michael Warren, head of internal affairs for Redwood Falls, PD. The floor seemed to tilt. Internal affairs? The man responsible for investigating complaints against officers, including the 14 complaints against Reese that went nowhere. Torres's expression was carved from stone. He's been protecting them, all of them, for at least a decade. Where is he? That's the problem. He didn't show up for work today. His wife says he left the house at 6 a.m. and never came back. Credit cards inactive. Phone off. Vehicle located abandoned near the interstate. Lily's throat tightened. He ran. Or he's planning something. Torres glanced at Kim. Either way, you're not going back to the safe house. Too exposed. We're moving you to a federal facility until Warren is in custody. For how long? As long as it takes. That could be weeks, months. I know. Lily shook her head. I have a life, a job. I can't just disappear. You don't have a choice. Torres stepped closer, lowered her voice. Warren isn't like Holloway. He's smart, connected. He knows how investigations work because he's run them, And right now, you're the one thing standing between him and a life sentence. So what? I hide forever? You stay alive long enough for us to find him. Torres's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, cursed. We have a situation. What kind of situation? The kind where Warren just sent a message to every major news outlet in the state. She turned her phone around, showed Lily the screen. It was a video, grainy, poorly lit, but clear enough. Captain Michael Warren sat in what looked like a basement, hands folded on a table, face calm. My name is Captain Michael Warren, he said into the camera, and I'm here to tell the truth about Lily Brooks. Lily's blood went cold. Warren continued. Ms. Brooks has been portrayed as a victim, a hero, a veteran standing up to corruption. But what the media won't tell you is that she has a history of mental health issues, PTSD, violent outbursts, disciplinary actions during her military service. That's a lie, Lily whispered. She assaulted Officer Daniel Reese first. He was defending himself. The video was edited, manipulated, and now she's using her veteran status to destroy good men who were just doing their jobs. Torres's jaw worked. He's trying to discredit you. Is any of that true? Kim asked. Lily turned on him. No. The PTSD? I was screened, cleared, I have the records. Then we use them, Torres said. We fight back. But Warren wasn't done. He leaned closer to the camera, expression earnest. I'm not running from justice. I'm running from a witch hunt, and I'm asking anyone who believes in the truth to stand with me. Because if they can destroy my career, your family, your livelihood based on lies and edited footage, they can do it to anyone. The video ended. Lily stared at the blank screen, felt the world shift beneath her feet. He's turning this around. He's trying to. Torres pocketed her phone. But he won't succeed. We have evidence, testimony, a pattern of behavior going back years. Evidence doesn't matter if people don't believe it. Torres didn't argue, because they both knew Lily was right. The video went viral within hours. By morning, it had been shared millions of times. #StandWithWarren trended on every platform. Conservative outlets ran with it. Talk radio hosts dissected Lily's service record, found inconsistencies that didn't exist, invented narratives that fit their agenda, and the threats started again. Worse this time. More specific. You're dead. Lying bitch. Hope someone finishes what Reese started. Lily's social media accounts, long since deleted, were recreated by strangers. Fake profiles using her photos. Posts claiming she'd admitted to lying. Deepfake videos of her saying things she'd never said. The hospital received bomb threats, 3 in one day, all traced back to burner phones. All dismissed as hoaxes. But the staff started looking at Lily differently when she came in for follow-up appointments. Like she was dangerous. Like her presence put them at risk. Dr. Patel was the exception. He stood by her, publicly. Wrote an op-ed in the local paper defending her character. Got death threats for it. Didn't back down. Marcus organized counter-protests. Veterans showed up by the hundreds, lining the courthouse steps, holding signs. We stand with Lily. But they were outnumbered now. Pro-police groups arrived with their own signs. Back the blue. Stop the lies. Shouting matches broke out, shoving. One veteran got arrested for throwing a punch. The media ate it up. Denise called a press conference, put Lily in front of cameras again. Ms. Brooks has never been disciplined for violent behavior. Her military record is exemplary. Captain Warren is spreading demonstrable lies to avoid accountability. A reporter shouted from the back, "What about the PTSD claim?" Ms. Brooks was evaluated and cleared by military psychologists. She has no diagnosis of PTSD. But she served in combat zones. Serving in combat doesn't automatically mean PTSD. That's a harmful stereotype. Another reporter, "Is it true she attacked Officer Reese first?" Denise's expression hardened. There is video evidence showing Officer Reese initiating contact, grabbing Ms. Brooks, slamming her into a wall, choking her. At no point did she attack him. Captain Warren says the video was edited. Captain Warren is lying. The footage has been verified by independent experts, timestamps, metadata. It's authentic. But the questions kept coming. And Lily realized something sitting there under the hot lights, with cameras in her face and strangers demanding she prove her trauma was real. It didn't matter what the truth was. People believed what they wanted to believe. The federal facility was a nondescript building 2 hours north. Concrete walls. Barred windows. Armed guards. Lily had a room on the 3rd floor. Bed, desk, small bathroom, a window that looked out at a parking lot. She spent her days reading case files, preparing for trial. The federal prosecutor assigned to Warren's case was a woman named Janet Huang, sharp, relentless. She walked Lily through every piece of evidence, every witness statement, every text message recovered from Holloway's phone. Warren made mistakes, Huang said during one session. He got arrogant, thought he was untouchable. That's going to cost him. When's the trial? 6 weeks? Maybe 8? His lawyers are filing motions, trying to delay. Will it work? Huang smiled thinly. They can delay. They can't stop it. But 6 weeks felt like forever. Lily trained in the facility gym, ran on the treadmill until her legs screamed, did push-ups until her arms gave out, anything to burn off the rage and fear that sat like lead in her chest. Kim visited twice a week, brought her books, magazines, news from the outside that was rarely good. The shooting review had cleared him. Self-defense, justified use of force. But he still wasn't sleeping. Still saw Holloway's face when he closed his eyes. You should talk to someone, Lily said. I am. Mandatory counseling. Is it helping? He shrugged. I keep showing up, that's something. Marcus came less often. He was busy organizing, rallying support, keeping the pressure on. But when he did visit, he brought updates that made Lily's stomach churn. Warren's legal defense fund has raised $2 million. $2 million? Police unions, conservative PACs, private donors. They're framing this as an attack on law enforcement. Marcus sat across from her in the visitation room, hands clasped. He's got the best lawyers money can buy. And we have the truth. Yeah, but truth is expensive too. He leaned forward. Denise is working pro bono. The veterans groups are covering some costs, but if this drags out, we'll manage. Will we? Marcus's voice was quiet, worried. Lily, I've been doing this a long time. I've seen good cases fall apart because people couldn't afford to keep fighting. I've seen victims lose everything and still not get justice. So what are you saying? I'm saying if you want to walk away, I'll understand. She looked at him. This man who'd stepped in when no one else would, who'd recorded the assault, who'd stayed by her side through every rally, every hearing, every nightmare. I'm not walking away. Even if it costs you everything, even then. He nodded slowly. Okay, then we fight. 3 days later, Torres called with news that made Lily's blood run cold. We found Warren. Where? Mexico, small town near the border. Local police picked him up on an Interpol warrant. Relief flooded through her. When are they bringing him back? Silence. Torres? There's a complication. Mexico's extradition process can take months, and Warren's lawyers are fighting it, claiming he'll face political persecution in the U.S. That's insane, I say. That's international law. Torres sighed. We're doing everything we can. State Department is involved, but this could drag out. How long? Best case? 3 months. Worst case? A year. Lily closed her eyes, felt the walls of her small room closing in. I can't stay here for a year. We'll figure something out. But they didn't. Weeks passed. Warren remained in Mexico, fighting extradition from a comfortable cell with access to lawyers and media. He gave interviews, played the victim, a good cop persecuted by political forces, and the public ate it up. Lily watched from her room as protests grew, not just in Redwood Falls, across the country. Blue Lives Matter rallies, thin blue line flags, cops and their supporters chanting Warren's name like he was a martyr instead of a criminal. The counter-protests grew too. But they were angrier now, more violent. Someone threw a Molotov cocktail at a police station. No one was hurt, but the footage played on loop. Proof, the pundit said, that the anti-police movement had gone too far. Lily became a symbol again. But this time, it felt different, heavier, like she was carrying the weight of everyone's anger and fear and desperate need for justice in a world that had forgotten what justice looked like. Dr. Patel called her one night. His voice shook. "They fired me." Lily sat up. "What?" "Hospital administration said I was too controversial, that my involvement in your case was affecting patient care. That's retaliation. I know, my lawyer's filing suit, but Lily, I'm not the only one. 3 other staff members who supported you have been let go. The hospital's terrified of losing donors, of being associated with this." She wanted to scream, wanted to throw the phone across the room, wanted to give up and disappear and let them all win because maybe then the people who'd stood by her would be safe. But she didn't. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "Don't be. I knew what I was getting into." He paused. "Are you okay?" "Define okay." "Still breathing, still fighting." She almost smiled. "Yeah, I'm still here." After he hung up, Lily lay in the dark and thought about all the people who'd paid for her refusal to stay quiet. Patel, the nurses who'd lost their jobs. Marcus, who'd poured his savings into organizing. Kim, who'd carry the weight of that shooting for the rest of his life. And she thought about the alternative. Staying silent, letting Reese walk free, letting Warren continue protecting abusers. Letting the system grind forward, crushing anyone who dared to speak up. She couldn't do it. Even if it cost her everything. Even if it cost everyone around her everything. Because if she gave up now, what message did that send? That power always wins? That fighting back is pointless? That the people who hurt you get to walk away while you drown in the consequences? No. She'd survived worse than this, and she'd survived this too. The breakthrough came in week 7, Torres called, voice tight with excitement. Warren made a mistake. What kind of mistake? He did a video interview with a Mexican journalist, talked about the case, about you, about how the system is corrupt. Torres paused, and he mentioned details that were never made public, things only someone with access to sealed files would know. Lily's pulse quickened. Meaning he still has connections inside Redwood Falls PD. Someone's feeding him information, and that someone just became a federal target. Within 24 hours, FBI agents raided the homes of 3 Redwood Falls officers, seized computers, phones, files. One officer, a sergeant named Briggs, cracked under questioning, admitted to sending Warren case updates, text messages, witness lists. He was arrested, charged with obstruction of justice, and that was when the dam broke. Briggs cut a deal, gave up names, dates, evidence of a corruption network that went beyond Reese and Warren, judges who'd dismissed complaints, prosecutors who'd buried cases, city officials who'd looked the other way in exchange for campaign contributions. The federal investigation exploded. Grand juries were convened, subpoenas issued, assets frozen. And Warren, watching from Mexico, realized he'd made a fatal error. He stopped giving interviews. His lawyers went quiet. The extradition fight lost steam. 2 weeks later, Mexican authorities put him on a plane. Torres met Lily in the common area of the federal facility with a smile that looked painful, like she'd forgotten how. He lands in 4 hours. Arraignment tomorrow morning. Lily stood slowly. It's really happening? It's really happening. That night, Lily couldn't sleep. She paced her room, checked the clock every 10 minutes. At midnight, she gave up and went to the gym. Ran on the treadmill until sweat soaked her shirt and her legs trembled. When she finally stopped, gasping, hands braced on the rails, she looked up at the mirror across from her. The woman staring back looked different. Thinner, harder, eyes that had seen too much, but still standing, still here. Tomorrow, Michael Warren would face a judge, and the day after that, the trial would begin. Lily walked back to her room, showered, and lay down on the narrow bed. Closed her eyes. Waited for dawn. The arraignment was packed. Press, activists, police supporters, veterans. Federal marshals lined the walls. Metal detectors at every entrance. Tension so thick it felt like breathing glass. Lily sat in the front row beside Denise. Marcus on her other side. Kim somewhere behind her with the other federal witnesses. The door opened. Warren walked in, hands cuffed, dressed in an orange jumpsuit. He looked smaller than she'd expected. Older. But his eyes were sharp. Predatory. He scanned the courtroom until he found her. And he smiled. Cold. Confident. Like he knew something she didn't. The judge entered. Everyone stood. Formalities. Charges read aloud. Warren pleaded not guilty, bail hearing scheduled. The whole process took less than 20 minutes. As marshals led him out, Warren stopped beside Lily's row, leaned close enough that she could smell stale coffee on his breath. "You have no idea what's coming," he whispered. Then he was gone. Lily sat frozen. Denise gripped her arm. "Ignore him. He's trying to rattle you." But when Lily checked her phone outside the courthouse, there was a message waiting. Unknown number, a photo, grainy, taken from a distance, but unmistakable. Marcus. Walking to his car, a red laser dot centered on his back. Below the image, a single line of text. "Drop the case, or he's next." Lily's hand shook so violently she nearly dropped the phone. "Marcus." The red dot on his back. The threat so clear it didn't need elaboration. She shoved through the courthouse crowd, Denise calling after her, but she didn't stop. Outside, the steps were chaos. Reporters, cameras, people shouting questions she couldn't hear over the roaring in her ears. Marcus stood near the street, talking to a cluster of veterans. Alive. Unharmed. The photo could have been taken hours ago, days ago, but the message was fresh, still glowing on her screen. She grabbed his arm. He turned, startled. "We need to go. Now." "What's wrong?" She showed him the photo. His face went pale, then hard. "Where's Torres?" "I don't know. Marcus, they're watching you. Right now. We need to—" "Ms. Brooks!" A reporter shoved a microphone toward her. "Do you have a response to Captain Warren's statement?" Lily ignored her, pulled Marcus toward the federal vehicles parked at the curb. Kim appeared, hand on his weapon, scanning the rooftops. "What happened?" She showed him the phone. He cursed, grabbed his radio. "Possible sniper threat. Clear the area. Now." Federal agents swarmed, ushered people inside, locked down the courthouse. Within minutes, tactical teams were on nearby roofs, sweeping buildings, securing perimeters. But whoever had sent the photo was gone. No trace, no signal. Just the image and the threat, burning into Lily's mind like a brand. Torres arrived 20 minutes later, face carved from granite. She took Lily's phone, studied the photo, and made 3 calls in rapid succession. Then she turned to Marcus. "You're coming with us." "I'm not hiding." "You're not dying either." Her voice left no room for argument. "Whoever sent this has access to surveillance-grade equipment. They know where you live, where you work, where you go. And they're telling us they can reach you whenever they want." Marcus looked at Lily. She saw the calculation in his eyes. The same choice she'd faced weeks ago. Fight or run. Risk everything or lose yourself trying to stay safe. "Okay," he said quietly, "but I'm not staying long." They moved him to the same facility as Lily. Different floor, different wing, but close enough that she could sleep knowing he was alive. That night, Torres briefed them in a conference room that smelled like burnt coffee and desperation. The photo was sent from a burner phone, activated 2 hours ago, deactivated immediately after the message went through. "We're tracing the location, but I'm not optimistic." "Who's behind it?" Marcus asked. "Warren's people. Has to be." Torres pulled up a map on the projector. Red dots marked locations across Redwood Falls. "We've identified 12 officers with potential ties to Warren. 6 are under surveillance, 3 have been interviewed, the rest are in the wind." "So we're back to waiting," Lily said. "We're back to building a case so airtight they can't wiggle out." Torres switched slides. Briggs gave us names. Bank records show payments from Warren to 5 officers over the past 3 years. Small amounts. Untraceable if you're not looking, but we're looking now. "What were the payments for?" "Information, witness intimidation, evidence tampering." Torres's jaw tightened. Warren ran internal affairs like a protection racket. Officers paid him to bury complaints. He paid them to keep quiet. And anyone who didn't play along got pushed out, or worse. Marcus leaned forward. "How many complaints are we talking about? Over the past decade, 217, against 43 different officers, 90% were dismissed or resulted in no disciplinary action. Lily felt sick. 200. And those are just the ones we know about. There are probably more. Torres closed the laptop. But here's the thing. Briggs is cooperating, and he's not the only one. 2 other officers have reached out to federal prosecutors. They want deals. They want out. Why now? Because Warren's in custody. Because they see which way the wind is blowing. Because rats always abandon the ship when it starts sinking. Torres stood. The trial starts in 3 weeks. We're going to bury him. But the threats didn't stop. 2 days later, someone mailed a package to the federal facility, addressed to Lily. No return address. Security X-rayed it, found no explosives, and opened it in a controlled environment. Inside was a single item, a nurse's badge. Not Lily's, someone else's. A woman named Rachel Kim, ER nurse, worked night shift at Redwood Falls General. Lily didn't recognize the name. Torres did. She filed a complaint against an officer 6 years ago. Excessive force during a hospital security call. The complaint was investigated by Warren's office and dismissed. Where is she now? Torres hesitated. Suicide. 3 months after the complaint was dismissed. Lily's blood went cold. They killed her. We don't know that. Yes, we do. Lily grabbed the evidence bag holding the badge. They're sending a message. Fight back and end up like her. Or they're desperate, trying to scare you into backing down because they know they're losing. Are they losing? Lily threw the bag onto the table. Because from where I'm sitting, they're still out there, still threatening people, still getting away with it. Torres didn't argue. She couldn't. That night, Lily couldn't sleep. She lay in the narrow bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about Rachel Kim, a woman she'd never met, a nurse who'd done the right thing and paid with her life. How many others were there? How many people had filed complaints, faced retaliation, and ended up broken or dead while Warren and his network walked free? The weight of it pressed down on her chest until she couldn't breathe. She got up, paced the small room, pressed her forehead against the cold window glass. Outside, the parking lot was empty. Floodlights cast harsh shadows. Guards patrolled the perimeter. Safe. Secure. A cage. She'd survived Kandahar. IEDs. Firefights. Soldiers dying in her arms. She'd survived all of that and come home to get choked in a hospital parking lot by a cop who thought she didn't matter. And now she was locked in a federal facility while the men who'd tried to destroy her planned their next move. Her phone buzzed. Marcus. You awake? She typed back. Yeah, me too. This is hell. Could be worse. How? She thought about Rachel Kim's grave, the flowers, the inscription. We could be dead. A long pause. Then, fair point. They texted back and forth for an hour. Nothing profound, just 2 people trying to stay sane in an insane situation. Finally, Marcus sent one last message. We're going to win this. You know that, right? Lily stared at the words. Wanted to believe them. But belief felt dangerous, like hoping for something that might get ripped away. I hope so, she typed. Not hope. No. Warren's done. And when he goes down, the whole system goes with him. She set the phone down and tried to sleep. Failed. Gave up around 4 a.m. and went to the gym. Ran until her legs screamed. Did push-ups until her arms gave out. Tried to outrun the fear that lived in her chest like a second heartbeat. The funeral for Rachel Kim had been small. Closed casket, family only. But Lily found the grave in a cemetery on the east side of town. Gray stone. Fresh flowers. An inscription that said beloved daughter and sister. She'd needed Torres's permission to leave the facility. 2 agents came with her, parked 30 yards away, watching. Lily knelt in the wet grass and traced the carved letters with her fingers. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry I didn't fight sooner. Maybe if I had, you'd still be here. A voice behind her. You didn't kill her. Lily turned. Dr. Patel stood a few feet away, hands in his coat pockets. He looked thinner, tired. The firing had aged him. I didn't save her either. You couldn't have. She was gone before you ever spoke up. He sat down on the grass beside her. But because of you, other people won't end up here. That has to count for something. Does it? Lily looked at the headstone. She's still dead, and the men who drove her to it are still breathing. For now. They sat in silence. Rain started falling, light at first, then heavier. Neither of them moved. Finally, Patel spoke. I've been thinking about quitting medicine. Lily looked at him sharply. Don't. Why not? I dedicated 15 years to that hospital, and they threw me out like garbage the second I became inconvenient. Because people need you. Patients need you. Patients need doctors who aren't afraid to stand up for what's right, and I'm terrified, Lily, every day. I wake up wondering if today's the day someone sends me a package, or follows me home, or worse. She understood. The fear that lived in your chest like a second heartbeat. The constant vigilance. The inability to relax because relaxing meant letting your guard down, and letting your guard down meant dying. I'm scared too, she admitted. Then why keep going? Because I'm more scared of what happens if I stop. He nodded slowly, stood, offered her a hand. She took it, and he pulled her to her feet. For what it's worth, he said, I'm glad you didn't stay quiet. Even though it cost you everything, I didn't lose everything. I lost a job, but I kept my integrity. And in the long run, that matters more. They walked back to their cars through the rain. Lily watched him drive away, then sat in the federal vehicle with the agents, staring at Rachel Kim's grave through the streaked window. She pulled out her phone and opened the photo of the badge Torres had given her. Rachel's face smiled from the laminated card. Young, hopeful, alive. Lily saved the image. She didn't know why. Maybe to remember. Maybe to carry the weight of what she was fighting for. One more name, one more person who deserved better. The trial began on a Tuesday. The courthouse was a fortress. Metal detectors, armed guards, protesters held back by barricades 3 blocks out. Press vans lined the streets. Helicopters circled overhead. Lily walked through it all flanked by federal marshals. She wore a simple gray suit, hair pulled back, no jewelry. Denise had coached her. Look professional, calm. Let your testimony speak for itself. Inside, the courtroom was packed, every seat filled, standing room only. Lily recognized faces. Veterans from the rallies, nurses from the hospital, reporters she'd seen on TV. And in the back, a cluster of men in police uniforms, arms crossed, glaring. Warren sat at the defense table in a suit that probably cost more than Lily made in 6 months. His lawyers flanked him. 3 of them. Expensive. Sharp. Ready to tear her apart. The judge entered. Everyone stood. Honorable Patricia Danvers, mid-60s, gray hair, reputation for being fair but ruthless. She looked at the packed courtroom with an expression that could freeze lava. This trial will be conducted with order and decorum. Any outbursts will result in immediate removal. Is that understood? Murmurs of assent. Good. Let's begin. The prosecution opened strong. Janet Huang stood before the jury and laid out the case with surgical precision. Warren's role as head of internal affairs. The complaints he'd buried. The officers he'd protected. The money that had changed hands. The pattern of corruption stretching back over a decade. Captain Michael Warren wasn't just a bad cop, Huang said. He was the architect of a system designed to shield bad cops from consequences. And when Lily Brooks threatened that system by refusing to stay silent, he tried to destroy her. She walked the jury through the evidence. Bank records showing wire transfers, text messages between Warren and officers discussing how to handle complaints, recorded phone calls where Warren explicitly instructed subordinates to falsify reports. This isn't about one incident, Huang continued. This is about systemic corruption, about a man who weaponized his position to protect criminals in uniform. And about the witnesses, people like Lily Brooks, like Rachel Kim, who had the courage to speak up and were punished for it. The defense countered with sympathy. Warren was a dedicated officer. 30 years of service, commendations, community outreach programs. A family man. The real victim here, they argued, was law enforcement itself, under attack by activists, the media, and opportunists looking for payouts. Ms. Brooks is a troubled veteran with a history of instability, Warren's lead attorney said. She fabricated this narrative to gain attention and financial compensation. And Captain Warren, trying to protect his department from false accusations, has been vilified for doing his job. Lily sat stone-faced through it all, hands folded, expression neutral, but inside rage burned so hot she thought it might consume her. The first witness was Briggs, the sergeant who'd cracked, who'd given up names and evidence in exchange for a reduced sentence. He looked smaller on the stand, shoulders hunched, eyes downcast. Huang walked him through it. The payments, the cover-ups, the explicit instructions from Warren to bury complaints, falsify reports, intimidate witnesses. Did Captain Warren ever specifically mention Lily Brooks? Yes. What did he say? Briggs swallowed hard. He said she was a problem, that she needed to be dealt with. Dealt with how? He didn't specify, but the implication was clear. And what was that implication? Briggs looked at Warren, then at the jury. That we should make her go away, one way or another. The courtroom stirred. The judge's gavel came down once, sharp, a warning. Huang continued. Did you participate in efforts to intimidate Ms. Brooks? Yes. How? I sent anonymous messages, coordinated with other officers to spread rumors, made sure she felt isolated at the hospital. On Warren's orders? Not explicit orders, but we all knew what he wanted. And we did it. The defense tore into him on cross-examination, painted him as a liar desperate to save himself, a man who'd throw anyone under the bus to avoid prison. Isn't it true you're testifying in exchange for a plea deal? Yes. So you have every incentive to lie. I'm not lying. How can the jury believe anything you say when you've admitted to being a corrupt officer? Briggs's voice was quiet but steady. Because I'm guilty. I know that. But Warren's worse, and people deserve to know the truth. The second witness was one of the officers who'd taken a deal. A younger guy, late 20s, officer named Jake Morrison. He'd been on the force for 4 years and already had 3 brutality complaints buried by Warren's office. He testified about the culture, the unspoken rules. If you questioned a senior officer, you got frozen out. If you reported misconduct, you got reassigned to the worst shifts, the most dangerous calls. If you pushed too hard, you lost your job or worse. Warren made it clear, Morrison said. You protect your brothers in blue or you're not really one of us. And if you didn't protect them, then you became a target. Huang pulled up financial records on the screen, wire transfers, dates, amounts. Can you explain these transactions? Hush money. Warren paid us to keep quiet about things we'd seen. What things? Beatings, planted evidence, illegal searches. One time I saw an officer choke a suspect who was already in handcuffs. When I reported it, Warren called me into his office and handed me $500 in cash. Told me to forget what I saw. And you took the money? Morrison's voice cracked. Yes, and I hate myself for it. What changed? I saw the video of what happened to Lily Brooks, and I realized I was part of the problem, that if I stayed quiet, I was just as guilty as the guys doing the beating. The defense tried to discredit him too, young, inexperienced, bitter about being pushed out of the department, but Morrison held firm. I'm not bitter, I'm ashamed, and I'm trying to make it right. Day 3 brought the medical examiner, Dr. Lauren Voss. She'd performed the autopsy on Rachel Kim. Huang approached carefully. What was your official ruling on Ms. Kim's death? Suicide by drug overdose. Did anything about the case strike you as unusual? Voss hesitated, glanced at Warren, then back at the jury. At the time, no, but in retrospect, yes. Explain. Rachel Kim had no history of drug use, no prescriptions for the medications found in her system, no prior mental health treatment for severe depression, and the toxicology report showed levels inconsistent with self-administration. Meaning the amount of drugs in her system would have required multiple injections over a short period, possible for suicide but unusual, more consistent with someone else administering the drugs. The courtroom went silent. You could hear people breathing. Huang let that sink in. Did you voice these concerns at the time? I tried. I wrote them in my preliminary notes, but when I submitted my report, I was told the case was being closed as a suicide. I was instructed not to pursue it further. Who instructed you? Captain Warren, he called me personally, said the family was grieving and didn't need the case dragged out, that it was clearly a suicide and I should finalize the paperwork. And you complied? Voss's voice was barely audible. Yes, and I've regretted it ever since. The defense objected. Hearsay. Speculation. The judge sustained some objections, overruled others, but the damage was done. The jury had heard it, seen the doubt, watched a medical examiner essentially admit she'd been pressured to cover up a potential homicide. Warren's lead attorney tried to recover on cross. Dr. Voss, you have no proof that Captain Warren's call was anything other than concern for the family, correct? Correct. And you have no proof Rachel Kim was murdered? No definitive proof, but enough inconsistencies to warrant further investigation, which you didn't pursue, because I was told not to. By Captain Warren, who you claim pressured you, but you have no recording of this conversation, no witnesses. Just your word against his. Voss straightened. Yes, my word, which I'm giving under oath, because I can't live with staying quiet anymore. Day 4 was the hardest, because day 4 was when Lily had to testify. She sat in the witness box with the entire courtroom staring at her. The jury, the press, the protesters. Warren. Huang started gently. Background. Her service record. 2 deployments. Combat medic. Honorable discharge. Her work as an ER nurse at Redwood Falls General. Tell us about the night of October 14th. Lily took a breath, steadied herself. I just finished a 14-hour shift. I was walking to my car in the employee parking lot. Officer Reese pulled up behind me. She walked them through it, step by step, the questions, the escalation, the grab, the wall, the chokehold, the witnesses, the terror of not being able to breathe while a cop pressed his arm into her throat and didn't care. What did you do after? I filed a report. And what happened? Nothing. For weeks, nothing. Then I started getting threatened, harassed. People at work turned on me. Someone sued me for defamation. Did you ever have direct contact with Captain Warren? No, but I knew his office was handling the investigation, and I knew it was going nowhere. What changed? Federal authorities got involved. Military legal officers, the FBI. They started digging and found the pattern. Complaints against Reese, complaints against other officers, all buried by Warren's office. Huang walked her through the aftermath, the threats, the safe house, Holloway's attack, the rail yard, the photo of Marcus with a laser sight on his back. How did all of this affect you? Lily looked at the jury. 12 faces, some sympathetic, some skeptical, all watching. It destroyed my life. I lost my job, my sense of safety, my belief that the system works. I've had nightmares, panic attacks. I can't walk to my car without checking over my shoulder. And I'm one of the lucky ones. Rachel Kim isn't here to testify. Neither are the dozens of other people who filed complaints and gave up when the system failed them. The defense attorney stood for cross-examination, smiled, predatory. Ms. Brooks, you claim Officer Reese assaulted you without provocation. But isn't it true you have a history of confrontation with authority figures? No. No? He pulled out a document. Military records show you were reprimanded twice during your service. For minor infractions, forgot to file paperwork once, late to formation once, not violence. But you were reprimanded. Yes, like thousands of other soldiers. And you suffer from PTSD, correct? Denise shot to her feet. Objection. Ms. Brooks has no PTSD diagnosis. I'm establishing a pattern of instability. There is no pattern, Denise snapped. You're manufacturing one. The judge intervened. I'll allow the question, but counsel, tread carefully. The attorney turned back to Lily. Do you have PTSD? No. I was evaluated and cleared by military psychologists. But you were in combat, saw violence, trauma. Yes. And that doesn't affect you. Lily met his eyes. Of course it affects me. I saw people die. Held soldiers while they bled out. Worked in conditions most people can't imagine. But it doesn't make me a liar. And it doesn't mean I deserve to be assaulted. Doesn't it? Trauma can distort memory, create false narratives. My memory is fine, and there's video evidence, video that's been questioned by experts, questioned by people you paid to question it. The attorney's smile thinned. You seem very angry, Ms. Brooks. I am angry. Someone choked me and got away with it for weeks because men like your client protected him. Men like Captain Warren who've dedicated their lives to public service. Men like Captain Warren who've spent years covering up abuse. Objection. Sustained. Ms. Brooks, stick to answering the questions. But Lily was done being careful, done being polite. She leaned forward. You want to know if I'm angry? Yes, I'm furious because I did nothing wrong. I walked to my car after saving lives all night. I answered questions, I complied, and I was assaulted anyway. And then I was called a liar, threatened, forced into hiding, had my career destroyed, all because I refused to let it go. The attorney opened his mouth, closed it. Lily continued, and the worst part? I'm not special. This happens constantly, to nurses, to civilians, to anyone who doesn't have power or money or connections. And people like Captain Warren make sure nothing changes. They protect the abusers and punish the victims. They do it because they know most people will stay quiet. Most people will give up. Most people will decide it's not worth the fight. She looked directly at Warren. He stared back, expression blank. But I'm not most people. I'm a combat veteran who survived worse than anything you can throw at me, and I'm not staying quiet. Not now. Not ever. The courtroom was dead silent. Then someone in the back started clapping. Slowly at first, then others joined. A ripple that became a wave. The judge slammed her gavel. Order! Order in this court! But the applause didn't stop. Not until the bailiff threatened to clear the room. Even then, it faded reluctantly, like people didn't want to let go of the moment. Lily stepped down from the witness box and walked back to her seat. Her hands were shaking, her throat was raw, but her head was high. Denise squeezed her arm. That was perfect. Lily didn't feel perfect. She felt exposed, exhausted, like she'd just run a marathon with her heart on the outside of her chest. But she'd told the truth, and that had to count for something. The trial lasted 2 more weeks. Witness after witness. Evidence piled so high it could bury a city. Bank records showing payments from Warren to multiple officers. Text messages discussing how to handle complaints. Recorded phone calls where Warren explicitly ordered evidence to be destroyed or reports to be falsified. Officers testified against each other. The whole rotten system exposed like a wound scraped clean. And through it all, Warren sat silent, watching, waiting, never taking the stand in his own defense. His lawyers tried. Character witnesses, colleagues who swore Warren was a good man, community leaders who praised his service, his wife, tearful on the stand, talking about the husband and father she knew. But Huang dismantled them one by one, cross-examined their connections to Warren, their own histories, their incentives to lie. She showed the jury photos of Rachel Kim's grave, of Lily's bruised throat, of hospital records documenting injuries from Reese's assault. Captain Warren wants you to believe this is about one troubled veteran with an axe to grind. But it's not. It's about a decade of systematic abuse, about 217 complaints that went nowhere, about Rachel Kim who's dead, about Lily Brooks who almost joined her, about every person who tried to do the right thing and got crushed by a system designed to protect criminals in uniform. She pointed at Warren. That man built that system. He profited from it. And when it started to crumble, he tried to destroy the people bringing it down. Don't let him get away with it. The defense made their final appeal. Warren was a scapegoat, a good man caught in a political firestorm. The real villains were the activists and media who'd turned public opinion against law enforcement. But their argument felt hollow, desperate, like even they knew it was over. The jury deliberated for 3 days. Lily spent those days in the federal facility, barely eating, barely sleeping. Marcus stayed close. Kim checked in hourly. Torres kept her updated on security sweeps and threat assessments. Every hour felt like a year. On the 3rd day, the call came. Verdict. They rushed to the courthouse. The crowd outside had grown, thousands now, chanting, holding signs. Police in riot gear standing ready in case things turned violent. Inside, the courtroom felt like a pressure cooker about to explode. Lily sat between Denise and Marcus, hands clenched so tight her nails drew blood. The jury filed in. 12 faces. Unreadable. The judge spoke. Has the jury reached a verdict? The foreperson stood. Middle-aged woman, glasses, tired eyes that had seen too much over the past weeks. We have, Your Honor. On the charge of conspiracy to obstruct justice, how do you find the defendant? Guilty. The courtroom exploded, shouting, crying, the judge's gavel slamming like gunfire. Order! I will have order or I will clear this courtroom. The noise subsided, barely. On the charge of witness intimidation? Guilty. On the charge of official misconduct? Guilty. Charge after charge, guilty, guilty, guilty. Lily couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The words washed over her like a wave, each one another brick lifted off her chest. Warren's face went pale, then red. His lawyers were talking, filing motions, but it was over. Everyone knew it. The judge set sentencing for 2 weeks. Federal guidelines. Maximum penalties. Warren was looking at 20 years minimum. No parole. As marshals led him away, he looked back at Lily one last time. His expression was cold, empty, like he'd already moved past this and was planning his next move. She didn't smile, didn't gloat. Just watched him go with the same calm she'd felt in Kandahar when she knew a soldier was going to make it. The crisis was over. The bleeding had stopped. Outside, the crowd roared, cheers, tears, veterans embracing. Lily walked into the chaos and felt hands on her shoulders, voices in her ears, cameras flashing. Marcus pulled her into a hug. You did it. We did it. No. He pulled back, looked at her with eyes that were wet. This was you, all of it. You started this. You refused to quit. This is your win. Torres appeared, fighting through the press. We've got 3 more arrests coming within the hour, officers connected to Warren. And the mayor just announced a full independent review of the department, federal oversight, the whole thing. Good. Lily. Torres's voice softened in a way Lily had never heard. It's over. You can go home. Home. The word felt foreign. Lily tried to remember what that meant. Her apartment with the broken window that had been repaired while she was gone? The hospital that had put her on leave and probably wouldn't take her back? The life she'd had before Reese grabbed her arm in a parking lot? None of that existed anymore. She'd have to build something new, figure out who she was now that the fight was over. But first she had to survive one more night. Because as the crowd celebrated and the press filed their stories and Warren sat in a cell awaiting sentencing, Lily's phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't look, almost deleted it without reading. But something made her check. A video file. No message. She opened it. The footage was dark, shaky. Someone walking through what looked like a warehouse, industrial, abandoned, pipes overhead, concrete floors stained with oil and rust. Then the camera turned and Lily saw a figure tied to a chair in the center of the frame. Beaten, bloody, face swollen almost beyond recognition. But she knew who it was, Sergeant Briggs. The man who'd testified against Warren. The man who'd given up everything to help bring down the system. The man who'd looked terrified on the stand but told the truth anyway. A voice off camera. Distorted. Mechanical. Like someone speaking through a voice modulator. This is what happens to rats. The figure in the chair moved slightly. Still alive. Barely. The camera zoomed in on his face. On the fear in his eyes. On the blood running from cuts that looked fresh. Then the video ended. Lily's hands went numb. The phone slipped from her fingers. Marcus caught it before it hit the ground. What is it? She couldn't speak, just pointed. He watched. His face went from confusion to horror in seconds. He showed Torres. The agent's expression transformed. Triumph to rage to cold, professional focus. She grabbed her phone, started making calls. Get units to Briggs's last known location. Now. I want every warehouse in the industrial district searched. Every abandoned building. Every place someone could hide a hostage. Move! Agents scattered. Kim was already on his radio. Tactical teams were being mobilized. But Lily knew they were too late. Whoever had sent this had already won this round. Briggs was either dead or dying, and the message was crystal clear. The trial was over. Warren was convicted. The corruption network was exposed. But the war wasn't finished. Someone out there still thought they could win. Still thought they could intimidate witnesses. Still thought the old system could be preserved if they just scared enough people into silence. Torres grabbed Lily's arm. "We're getting you back to the facility. Now. We need to find Briggs. Teams are already moving. Your job is to stay alive." They hustled her to a vehicle. Federal agents forming a protective barrier. Marcus climbed in beside her. Kim took the driver's seat, weapon on his lap. As they pulled away from the courthouse, Lily looked back. The crowd was still celebrating, still cheering, still believing the fight was over. They had no idea it had just entered a new phase. The video played in her mind on repeat. Briggs tied to that chair, the blood, the fear, the mechanical voice promising retribution. And she realized something that made her blood turn to ice. The voice had said, "This is what happens to rats." Present tense, not past. Meaning Briggs might still be alive when they made that video. Meaning they wanted him found, wanted the message delivered, wanted everyone to know that cooperating with federal authorities had consequences. Torres's phone rang. She answered, listened. Her face went pale. "Say that again." A pause. "Understood. Send me coordinates." She hung up, looked at Lily. They found the warehouse. Empty. But there was a message spray-painted on the wall. What did it say? Torres hesitated, then showed her phone. A photo. Concrete wall. Red paint dripping like blood. 3 words. "Brooks is next." The photo burned into Lily's retinas. Red paint dripping down concrete. "Brooks is next." 3 words that meant whoever had taken Briggs wasn't finished, wasn't scared, wasn't backing down just because Warren was behind bars. Kim drove faster. The federal facility loomed ahead, razor wire gleaming under floodlights. Guards at every entrance, cameras sweeping the perimeter, a fortress. But fortresses could be breached. Torres made calls the entire ride, her voice sharp, clipped, commands firing like bullets. "I want every warehouse within 10 miles searched. I want traffic cams reviewed. I want cell tower data for every burner phone activated in the past 72 hours. Lily barely heard her. She was thinking about Briggs, the fear in his eyes, the blood, the certainty that he was going to die because he'd told the truth. Just like Rachel Kim. Just like how many others? They pulled into the facility's underground garage. Agents surrounded the vehicle before the engine even stopped. Kim opened Lily's door, hand on his weapon, eyes scanning shadows. "Clear," someone called. They moved her inside. Down corridors she'd walked 100 times, past conference rooms and break areas and other witnesses in protective custody, people whose faces she'd memorized, whose stories she'd heard, all of them waiting for trials that might never come, all of them wondering if they'd made a mistake by speaking up. Marcus was already in the common area when they arrived. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in the past hour. "Briggs?" he asked. Torres shook her head. "Still missing, but we have teams on it." "How long has he been gone?" "Security footage shows he left his apartment this morning, never made it to his car." "Broad daylight?" "They're getting bold." Torres's jaw was tight. "Or desperate. Either way, it's escalating." Lily sat down on the couch. Her legs felt like water. "They're going to keep doing this, picking off witnesses, sending messages, until everyone's too scared to testify. We won't let that happen. You can't stop them, not if they're willing to die for this." Torres crouched in front of her, eye to eye. "Listen to me. Warren is finished. His network is collapsing. These are the last holdouts, fanatics who think they can turn this around if they just eliminate enough threats. But they can't. The evidence is already in. The trial is over. The verdict is final. Then why are they still coming? Because they're not rational, because they're cornered, because people who've spent their entire lives believing they're untouchable don't accept defeat easily." Torres stood. "But they will. We're going to make sure of it." She left to coordinate the search. Kim stayed behind, standing near the door like a sentinel. Marcus sat beside Lily. "You okay?" "Do I look okay?" "No." She almost laughed. "Almost. I thought it would feel different. The verdict? I thought I'd feel relief or justice or something. Instead, I just feel tired. That's normal. Is it? Because I can't stop thinking about Briggs, about Rachel Kim, about everyone who fought this system and lost. She looked at him. What if winning isn't enough? Winning is never enough by itself, but it's a start. Marcus leaned back, hands clasped behind his head. I've been doing veteran advocacy for 12 years. You know how many cases I've won? Real actual wins where the person got justice and their life back? How many? 3 out of hundreds. He smiled bitterly. Most of the time people settle, or drop the case, or the system grinds them down until they can't fight anymore. But those 3 wins, they changed everything for those people. And they changed the system just a little bit, made it harder for the next abuser to get away with it. 3 seems like a small number. It is, but it's 3 more than 0. He looked at her. You did something most people can't. You stood up when it would have been easier to stay down. You testified when it would have been safer to stay quiet. You survived when they tried to destroy you. That matters, Lily, even if it doesn't feel like it right now. She wanted to believe him, wanted to think all the pain and fear and loss had been worth something. But Briggs was still missing, and her name was spray-painted on a warehouse wall in red. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number again. Her hand shook as she picked it up. Another video? Another threat? But it was a text, just 2 words. Parking garage, then coordinates, an address she didn't recognize. She showed Kim. He immediately called Torres. 5 minutes later, tactical teams were mobilizing. The coordinates led to an abandoned parking structure on the industrial side of town, same area as the warehouse where they'd found the message. Torres assembled her team in the briefing room. Screens showed satellite imagery, floor plans, thermal scans indicating possible heat signatures on the 3rd level. We go in hard and fast. Primary objective is Briggs's recovery. Secondary is apprehending whoever's holding him. She looked around the room. These people have already demonstrated willingness to kill. Assume they're armed. Assume they're waiting for us. Whoa! One of the tactical leads spoke up. Could be a trap. Probably is, which is why we're bringing enough firepower to handle it. Torres glanced at Lily. You're staying here. I know. I mean it. No heroics. No following us. You stay in this facility with Kim until we give the all clear. Lily nodded. What else could she do? She wasn't law enforcement, wasn't military anymore. Just a nurse who'd gotten caught in a war she never asked for. The teams left. Convoy of black SUVs rolling out of the garage with lights off. Silent, deadly. Kim turned on the news. Local coverage was all over the verdict. Warren's conviction, the pending arrests of other officers, protesters celebrating, police unions issuing statements about miscarriages of justice, but nothing about Briggs. Torres had kept that quiet. Didn't want to tip off whoever had him. Lily watched the clock, seconds crawling, minutes feeling like hours. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was a call. Unknown number. She answered without thinking. Hello? Breathing, heavy, labored, then a voice, weak, barely audible. Lily? Her blood froze. Briggs? They're going to kill me. Where are you? I don't... Parking garage. 3rd floor. Can't see. Too dark. The FBI is coming. Hold on. Just hold on. They said you'd come. His voice was fading. Said you'd try to save me. Like the soldiers. In Afghanistan. Lily's throat closed. Briggs? Stay with me. Stay awake. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I waited so long to tell the truth. You did the right thing. You hear me? You did the right thing. A sound in the background. Footsteps. Then Briggs's voice, panicked. They're here. The line went dead. Lily stared at her phone. Kim was already on his radio. Torres, we just got contact from Briggs. He's alive. 3rd floor parking garage. Suspects are with him. Move now. Torres's voice crackled back. We're 2 minutes out, converging on the location. 2 minutes. Briggs could be dead in 2 minutes. Lily stood. Kim blocked her path. Don't even think about it. He called me. Not Torres. Not 911. Me. Because they want you there. It's bait. I know. She met his eyes. But if I don't go, he dies, and they win. If you do go, you both die. Maybe. She pulled her jacket on. Or maybe I save him, like I saved soldiers in Kandahar, like I've been saving people my whole career. Kim's hand went to his weapon, not threatening, just ready. I can't let you leave. You can't stop me without shooting me, and you won't do that. She moved toward the door. You can either come with me or stay here, but I'm going. He cursed, grabbed his radio. Torres, Brooks is mobile, heading to your location. I'm with her. Torres's response was furious. Negative. Keep her there. That's an order. Too late. We're moving. They took Kim's vehicle, drove through empty streets with the gas pedal floored. The parking garage was 15 minutes away normally. Kim made it in 8. Police lights strobed ahead, FBI vehicles forming a perimeter, tactical teams stacking at the entrance. Torres saw them coming and stormed over. What the hell are you doing here? Briggs called me. He's alive, 3rd floor. I know, we're handling it. He called me specifically. They want me here. Which is exactly why you shouldn't be here. Torres grabbed her arm. Lily, listen to me. Whoever's in there wants you dead. They're using Briggs as bait. If you go in, you're giving them what they want. If I don't go in, Briggs dies. And the next witness, and the next, until everyone's too scared to testify. Lily pulled free. I'm done hiding. I'm done letting them control this. This isn't about control. It's about survival. It's about both. Lily looked at the parking garage. Dark, silent, waiting. I survived Kandahar by running toward the danger, not away from it. By making the hard choice when everyone else froze. This is the same thing. It's not. You're a civilian now. I'm a veteran who refuses to let another person die because I was too scared to act. She started toward the garage. You can arrest me after, but right now I'm going in. Torres looked at Kim. He shrugged. I tried. She cursed, made a decision. Fine, but you're wearing a vest, and you're staying behind tactical. One wrong move and I'm pulling you out. Understood? Understood. They geared Lily up. Kevlar vest, earpiece, flashlight. Kim stayed at her side, weapon drawn. The tactical team moved in formation. Stairwell first, clearing each level. Lily's heart hammered so hard she thought it might crack her ribs. 3rd floor. The doors opened onto darkness. Overhead lights smashed, glass crunching underfoot, concrete pillars casting deep shadows. And in the center, illuminated by a single work light, Briggs. Tied to a chair, head slumped forward, blood pooling beneath him. Lily started forward. Kim grabbed her. Wait! The team leader raised a fist. Everyone stopped, listening, watching. Nothing moved. Could be clear, someone whispered. Or they're waiting, Torres said. Snipers, tripwires, anything. Lily couldn't stand it. Couldn't watch Briggs sitting there bleeding while they debated tactics. She pulled free from Kim and walked toward him. Lily, no! But she was already moving. Across the open space, exposed, vulnerable, every instinct screaming at her to find cover. She reached Briggs, knelt beside him, pressed fingers to his throat. Pulse. Weak, but there. He's alive, she called back. Then she heard it. A click. Metallic. Familiar. Safety coming off a weapon. She turned, saw the figure emerge from behind a pillar 20 feet away. Male. Average height, face obscured by a ski mask, handgun pointed directly at her. Knew you'd come, he said. Voice familiar. Where had she heard it before? Behind her, the tactical team fanned out, red laser sights painting the gunman's chest. Drop the weapon, Torres shouted. The man didn't move. Shoot me and she dies. I'll get one round off before you put me down, and at this range, I won't miss. You're surrounded. There's no way out. Don't need a way out, just need her dead. Lily stood slowly, hands visible, calm. The same calm that came over her when mortars hit and chaos erupted, and she had to focus through the fear. Who are you? The man laughed, cold, bitter. You don't even remember me. Should I? I was there. The night Reese grabbed you, in the parking lot. Her mind raced. The other officers, the ones who'd responded, the ones who'd taken Reese's side. Officer Davis, she said quietly. Sergeant Davis now. Got promoted while Warren was still running things. He adjusted his grip on the weapon. You destroyed everything. Reese is in prison. Warren's finished. My career's over. My whole life. You did that to yourself by covering for criminals. We were protecting our own. That's what brothers do. Brothers don't choke innocent people. Brothers don't cover up murders. Rachel Kim killed herself. Did she? Or did someone make it look that way because she was going to keep pushing, keep demanding accountability? Davis's hand shook. Shut up. You know the truth. You've always known. That's why you're here. Not to kill me, to silence the part of yourself that knows you were wrong. I said shut up. Torres's voice came through the earpiece. Calm, strategic. Lily, I need you to move left. Slowly. Give us a clear shot. But Lily didn't move. She kept her eyes on Davis. Saw the conflict there, the rage and shame and desperation. You can still stop this, she said quietly. Put the gun down. Tell the truth. Make it mean something. It's too late. It's not. Briggs survived. He's going to testify again. More officers are cooperating. The system you were protecting is already gone. All you're doing now is making it worse for yourself. I don't care anymore. Yes, you do. If you didn't care, you'd have pulled the trigger already. His finger tightened on the trigger. Lily saw it, saw the decision forming, and she made her own. She dove left, grabbed Briggs's chair, pulled it down just as the gunshot cracked through the garage. The bullet missed her by inches, sparked off concrete. Then the tactical team opened fire. Davis went down. Hard, multiple rounds center mass. He dropped the weapon, collapsed. Lily's ears rang. Smoke hung in the air, shouts and radio chatter and boots running. She stayed on the ground beside Briggs, hands covering her head, while agents secured the scene. Kim hauled her to her feet. You okay? She nodded. Couldn't speak yet. Paramedics rushed in, loaded Briggs onto a stretcher, started IV's oxygen. He was unconscious but breathing. Torres appeared beside Lily. That was the stupidest, bravest thing I've ever seen. Did we get him? Davis is down. Alive. Critical condition. Torres looked at the tactical team securing the perimeter. We found 2 more suspects on the roof. Spotters. They're in custody. Anyone else? No, I think that was it. The last of Warren's network. Torres exhaled. Long, shaky. It's over. Lily looked at Davis being loaded onto another stretcher, at Briggs being rushed to an ambulance, at the blood and glass and chaos. Is it? The fighting part is. Now comes the healing part, which might be harder. They took Lily to the hospital, checked her for injuries, cleared her, gave her a blanket and a bottle of water and a room to sit in while they processed the scene. Marcus arrived an hour later, pulled her into a hug that lasted longer than words. You scared the hell out of me, he said. I scared myself. He sat beside her. Briggs is stable. They're saying he'll make it. Relief flooded through her. Good. Davis is in surgery, 50-50 odds. And the others? Talking, cutting deals, giving up names. Marcus smiled grimly. Turns out when your leader's in prison and your network's collapsing, loyalty gets real flexible. Over the next week, the dominoes fell. 4 more officers arrested. 2 prosecutors. A judge who'd been dismissing police misconduct cases for years. The investigation spread like a wildfire, burning through every corrupt corner of Redwood Falls law enforcement. The mayor resigned. The police chief was forced out. The entire Internal Affairs Division was dissolved and rebuilt from scratch under federal oversight. Lily watched it all from the federal facility, still under protection, still waiting for confirmation that every threat had been neutralized. Briggs woke up on day 3, gave a statement from his hospital bed, named names, provided evidence, refused to back down even when his lawyer advised him to stay quiet. I already stayed quiet too long, he told reporters. Nearly got me killed, but I'm still here, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows the truth. Davis survived surgery, faced charges of attempted murder, conspiracy, and about a dozen other felonies. His lawyer entered a plea of not guilty, but the evidence was overwhelming. On day 7, Torres came to Lily's room. It's done. Every suspect is in custody or dead. Every threat neutralized. You're free to go. Lily looked around the small room that had been her home for weeks. Where do I go? Wherever you want. Torres handed her a folder. Job offers. 3 hospitals want to hire you. 2 veterans organizations want you on their boards. And there's a book deal if you're interested. Lily flipped through the papers, felt overwhelmed. I just want to be a nurse again. Then be a nurse, but know that you're more than that now. Like it or not, you're a symbol. People see you and think maybe they can fight back too. Maybe they can survive. Maybe justice is possible. Oh, that's a lot of weight. Yeah, but you've carried worse. Torres smiled. Take some time, figure out what you want. But Lily, don't disappear. The world needs people like you. Lily left the facility that afternoon, walked out into sunshine that felt too bright, too normal, like the world should look different after everything that had happened. Marcus was waiting with his truck. Where to? The cemetery. They drove in silence, pulled up to Rachel Kim's grave. The flowers had wilted. New ones had been placed. Cards, notes. People Lily had never met leaving messages for a woman they'd never known. She knelt in the grass, traced the carved letters. I did it, she whispered. Not just for me, for you too. For everyone they hurt. The wind rustled through the trees. Somewhere nearby, a bird sang. Marcus knelt beside her. You think she knows? I hope so. They stayed until the sun started setting, then drove to Lily's apartment. The window had been fixed, the door repainted. Someone had left flowers on her doorstep. Inside, everything was exactly as she'd left it, frozen in time. The night Reese grabbed her felt like a lifetime ago. She unpacked slowly, put her clothes away, made tea, sat on the couch, and stared at the wall. Her phone rang. Dr. Patel. Hey, she said. Hey, yourself. Heard you were released. Just got home. How does it feel? She thought about it. Strange. Like I'm waiting for something bad to happen. That'll pass. Eventually. He paused. I got my job back. Hospital settled out of court. Reinstated me with back pay and a formal apology. That's great. Yeah, but it's not the same. Too much has changed. Another pause. I'm thinking about opening a clinic. Free care for people who can't afford it. Veterans. Homeless. Anyone the system forgets. Wondering if you'd want to be part of it. Lily's chest tightened. I don't know if I'm ready. No rush. Offer stands whenever you are. They talked for a few more minutes. Hung up. Lily sat in the gathering dark and thought about the future. About what came after the fight. After the victory. After everything. The next day, she went back to Redwood Falls General. Walked through the doors she'd walked through 1,000 times. The ER smelled the same, antiseptic and fear and the metallic tang of blood. Lisa Martinez was at the nurse's station. She looked up, saw Lily. Her expression flickered. Shame, regret, something almost like respect. Hey, Lisa said quietly. Hey, I heard about everything, the verdict, the arrests, what you did. She looked down. I'm sorry for what I said, for not believing you. Lily wanted to be angry, wanted to throw it back in her face, but she was too tired. I get it. It's scary to stand up, easier to blame the victim. That's not an excuse. No, but it's human. Lily looked around the ER, remembered the night she'd walked out these doors and into a nightmare. I'm not coming back here. Not to work anyway. Lisa nodded. I understand, but for what it's worth, we could use someone like you. Someone who doesn't back down. You could be that person. Maybe. Lisa managed a small smile. Maybe we all could. Lily left, drove across town to the federal courthouse. The sentencing hearing for Warren was scheduled for 2 p.m. The courtroom was packed again. But this time, Lily didn't feel nervous, didn't feel scared, just tired, ready for it to be finished. Warren was led in, orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed. He looked smaller, older, defeated. The judge read the charges, the convictions, the sentencing guidelines, then looked at Warren. Do you have anything to say before I impose sentence? Warren stood. For a moment, Lily thought he might apologize, might show remorse. Instead, he said, I served this city for 30 years, did my job, protected people. And this is how I'm repaid. betrayed by my own officers, crucified by the media, destroyed by a system that forgot what loyalty means. The judge's expression didn't change. You had a duty to uphold the law. Instead, you corrupted it. You protected abusers. You intimidated witnesses. You destroyed evidence. And when someone finally stood up to you, you tried to destroy them. I was protecting my officers. You were protecting criminals. The judge leaned forward. And in doing so, you betrayed every good officer who actually serves this community. Every citizen who believed the system would protect them. Every victim who trusted that justice was possible. Warren opened his mouth, closed it. Michael Warren, I hereby sentence you to 25 years in federal prison, no possibility of parole. You will also pay restitution to your victims and be permanently barred from any law enforcement position. The gavel came down. Warren's legs buckled. His lawyers caught him. But he was finished. Everyone knew it. Outside, reporters swarmed again, but this time, Lily was ready. Ms. Brooks, how do you feel about the sentence? She looked into the cameras, thought about what she wanted to say, what message she wanted to send. I feel like justice happened, not just for me, but for Rachel Kim, for Sergeant Briggs, for every person who filed a complaint and was ignored, every victim who was told to stay quiet. She paused. But this isn't over. Warren's gone. But the system that protected him for so long is still there, and it'll keep protecting abusers until we fundamentally change it. What would you say to other victims watching this? I'd say speak up. Fight back. Don't let anyone tell you your voice doesn't matter, because it does. Mine did. And if enough of us refuse to stay silent, we can change everything. Do you regret any of it? She thought about the cost, the fear, the nights she couldn't sleep, the people who turned on her, the life she'd lost. I regret that it was necessary, but I don't regret doing it. She looked directly at the camera, because the alternative was letting them win, and I'd rather lose everything fighting than keep everything by staying quiet. 3 months later, Lily stood in front of a small building on the east side of Redwood Falls. The sign above the door read, Community Health Center, Free Care for All. Dr. Patel stood beside her. Ready? As I'll ever be. They'd spent weeks renovating, cleaning, stocking supplies, recruiting volunteers. The clinic would open tomorrow. Free medical care, no questions asked. No one turned away. It wasn't saving the world, but it was helping people the system had forgotten. People like she'd been, vulnerable, scared, needing someone to care. Marcus had helped with funding. Veterans groups donated equipment. Nurses who'd worked with Lily volunteered their time. Even Kim stopped by on his days off to provide security. The night before the opening, Lily walked through the empty clinic, checked exam rooms, stocked supplies, made sure everything was ready. Her phone buzzed. Text from Torres. Saw the news about the clinic. Proud of you. Lily smiled. Typed back. Thanks. For everything. You did the hard part. I just kept you alive. That's not nothing. Neither is what you're doing now. Keep fighting. Lily set the phone down, looked around at what they'd built. A small thing, one clinic in one city. But it was something, and something was better than nothing. Opening day brought chaos. The line wrapped around the block. People who couldn't afford care, veterans, homeless, families struggling. They came with injuries and illnesses and years of being told they didn't matter. Lily worked 12 hours straight. Sutured wounds, treated infections, held hands and listened to stories, and reminded people they weren't invisible. At the end of the day, she sat in the break room with Dr. Patel, both of them exhausted, both of them satisfied. We helped 43 people today, he said, 43 more than would have been helped otherwise. Think we can sustain this? We have to. She looked through the window at the empty waiting room. Because if we don't, who will? Weeks turned into months. The clinic became a fixture. Lily became known in the community. Not as the victim, not as the woman who took down a corrupt system, just as the nurse who showed up every day and helped people. She still had nightmares sometimes, still checked over her shoulder in parking lots, still flinched at loud noises. But she was healing, slowly, imperfectly, but healing. 1 year after the assault, Lily returned to the parking lot where it had happened. The hospital had installed new lights, better cameras, security patrols. She stood where Reese had grabbed her, where Marcus had intervened, where everything had changed, and she realized something. She wasn't the same person who'd walked to her car that night. That woman had been quiet, careful, trying not to cause problems. This woman was different, stronger, not because she'd stopped being afraid, but because she'd learned that courage wasn't the absence of fear. It was doing the right thing despite it. Her phone buzzed. Message from an unknown number. She almost deleted it. Almost. But something made her open it. It was a photo. A young woman in scrubs, holding a sign that said, "Thank you for showing me I could fight back." Below it, a message. "I filed a complaint against the officer who assaulted me. Because of you, I didn't stay quiet. Because of you, I believed someone would listen." Lily stared at the message, felt tears burning. Not from sadness, from something else. Something that felt like hope. She typed back, "You did that yourself. I just went first." The response came quickly. Sometimes that's all people need, someone to go first. Lily walked to her car, started the engine, drove home through streets that felt a little less dangerous, a little more like hers. She thought about Reese, in prison, where he belonged. She thought about Warren, sentenced, disgraced, destroyed. She thought about Davis and the others, facing consequences for actions they'd thought they'd never answer for. But mostly, she thought about the people she'd saved. The soldiers in Kandahar who'd made it home because she'd run toward danger. The patients in the ER who'd survived because she'd refused to give up. The witnesses who'd come forward because she'd shown them it was possible to fight back and survive. That was the real victory. Not the verdict, not the sentence, but the lives she'd touched, the system she'd forced to change, the people who'd found courage because she'd refused to stay quiet. At home, she made dinner, simple, pasta, wine, ate on the couch while watching the news. There was a story about police reform, new oversight committees, independent review boards, federal monitoring of departments with histories of abuse, changes that wouldn't have happened if she'd stayed silent. Her doorbell rang. She checked the peephole. Marcus. She opened the door. "Hey. Hey yourself." He held up a bottle. "Thought you might want company." "Always." They sat on her balcony, talked about nothing important, the weather, sports, plans for the clinic's expansion. Finally, Marcus said, "You ever think about what your life would have been like if Reese had just let you walk to your car?" "Sometimes." "And?" "I'd probably still be working at the hospital, going through the motions, not making waves, safe, quiet, forgotten." "You regret how things turned out?" She thought about it, really thought. "I regret the cost, the fear, the pain, the people who got hurt, but I don't regret fighting back. Because that person, the one who would have stayed quiet, that wasn't really me. That was just who I'd learned to be to survive." "And now?" "Now I'm who I actually am, scared sometimes, angry sometimes, but not quiet. Never quiet again." They sat in comfortable silence, watched the city lights flicker on, watched people moving through their lives, unaware of the battles being fought in parking lots and courtrooms and small clinics on the east side of town. Lily thought about Rachel Kim, about how her grave had fresh flowers now, how people she'd never met left notes thanking her for being brave, for filing that complaint, for trying. She thought about Briggs, recovering, testifying, refusing to back down despite everything. She thought about all the people who'd stood with her, Marcus, Torres, Kim, Dr. Patel, Denise, the veterans who'd rallied, the strangers who'd believed her when it would have been easier not to. And she thought about the future, the clinic, the patients, the people who'd walk through those doors looking for hope and find someone willing to fight for them. That was enough. Not perfect, not easy, but enough. Her phone buzzed one more time that night, another unknown number, another message. But this time it wasn't a threat. It was a thank you. "I'm a nurse in Chicago. I was assaulted by a patient's family member last year. Hospital told me to let it go. I did. Saw your story. Filed a report yesterday. Police are investigating. Thank you for showing me I didn't have to stay quiet." Lily saved the message, added it to the folder she'd started, dozens of them now. from nurses and veterans and civilians and people she'd never meet, all of them saying the same thing. You gave me courage. You showed me it was possible. You proved the system can change. She turned off her phone, sat in the dark, let herself feel everything, the fear, the anger, the grief, the hope. And she made a promise to herself, to Rachel Kim, to everyone who'd fought and lost and was still fighting. She wouldn't stop, wouldn't quit, wouldn't let their sacrifices be for nothing. Because the fight wasn't over. It would never be over. There would always be people who abused power, always be systems that protected them, always be victims told to stay quiet, but there would also always be people who refused, who stood up, who fought back, who proved that courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. And Lily Brooks, former combat medic, ER nurse, survivor, had learned that the hardest battles weren't fought with weapons or violence. They were fought with truth, with persistence, with the simple, terrifying act of refusing to be silent when silence was safer. She'd been underestimated, dismissed, threatened, nearly killed, but she was still standing, still fighting, still here. And that was the real victory. Not just for her, but for everyone who'd ever been told their voice didn't matter, who'd ever been pushed down and told to stay there, who'd ever wondered if fighting back was worth the cost. It was. Every single time. Even when it hurt. Even when it felt impossible. Even when the whole world seemed aligned against you. Because the alternative was letting them win. And Lily had learned something crucial in that parking lot, in that courtroom, in that warehouse with a gun pointed at her head. She'd rather die fighting than live quiet. And as long as she had breath in her lungs and fight in her heart, she'd keep proving that one person speaking up could change everything. Not because she was special, not because she was fearless, but because she was human, flawed, scared, angry, and absolutely, completely done staying silent. That was the message she wanted to leave, the legacy she wanted to build. Not that she was a hero, but that anyone could be. That courage wasn't something you were born with. It was something you chose every single day. In parking lots, in courtrooms, and small clinics where people came looking for hope. And sometimes, just sometimes, choosing to speak up was enough to change the world.